Sullivan's Beacon launched a year later at a community center in Detroit, Michigan. Nora, with her quiet resilience, designed programs to aid the unemployed, single parents, those forgotten by society. Her office was a small room, adorned with photos of those she helped, each smile a testament to her impact. Adrian, once a millionaire consumed by deals, now found joy in supporting Nora, from funding scholarships to building shelters. But Adrian's journey didn't end there. He launched an internal investigation at Voss Technologies. He exposed the corruption of Heller and others. He uncovered a final secret. Heller had secretly sold customer data for profit, a practice his parents had tacitly approved. Adrian sold off the unethical divisions. He funneled the profits to Sullivan's Beacon. The company's stock plummeted. The press criticized him. But Adrian didn't care. For the first time, he was building a legacy free from his family's ruthlessness. One autumn afternoon in Detroit, Adrian and Nora stood together at the ribbon cutting for Sullivan's Beacon's second community center. As Nora cut the ribbon, the crowd cheered. Adrian gazed at her with pride mingled with gratitude. In that moment, Nora revealed a secret that stunned him. Years ago, she had quietly used her savings to pay college tuition for one of Adrian's friends, helping them escape poverty. "I didn't just want to save you, Adrian," she said, "but everyone who needed a chance." Her words were a breeze. They swept away the last traces of guilt in him. Adrian resigned as CEO of Voss Technologies. He chose to work full-time for Sullivan's Beacon. He and Nora became a family unbound by blood, united by love and purpose. They expanded the foundation from Chicago to Atlanta. They brought hope to the darkest places. Through their journey, they proved that true wealth lies not in what we own, but in the lives we touch, the wrongs we right, and the lights we kindle in the shadows. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always exciting to see someone join us from around the globe. Comment 1 if you loved this story. It'll inspire us to bring you more captivating tales. The June sunlight blazed, its harsh golden rays piercing through the dusty windows of Rusty Spoon. Yet it couldn't touch the cold, shadowed corners of the small diner on Woodward Avenue, Detroit. The cracked, grimy tile floor, stained with shoe marks and dried coffee, told a story of lean days. Wobbly round tables, sticky with the remnants of countless hurried meals, stood silently under flickering fluorescent lights. The heavy smell of old frying oil, pungent, mingled with the acrid scent of burnt pancakes clinging to every breath. That was Rusty Spoon, a sanctuary for Nora Ellis, where she found fleeting comfort amid exhausting shifts, but also a cage, trapping her dreams in an endless cycle of bills and fatigue. 6 years as a waitress, Nora had learned to walk on aching feet, to flash a professional smile through long hours, and to hide the dread that came with opening medical aid letters. She needed Rusty Spoon, needed the meager tips, the extra shifts, to pay for the rundown one-bedroom apartment in Corktown. There, she lived with her father, Henry, a man with gaunt hands and wheezing breaths from chronic lung disease. Every night, the hiss of his oxygen tank by his bedside was a reminder that their time was running out. But Nora didn't stop. She scrimped every penny, funneling it into online courses in youth counseling, where she dreamed of one day reaching out to lost kids, guiding them through darkness as she'd once longed for someone to do for her. That dream, fragile as a sticky note pinned to her desk, was the tiny flame keeping her upright. Nora wasn't born an optimist. Life, with its wounds that never healed, had honed her sharp brown eyes, turning her into someone who could read unspoken stories. She saw the faint tremble in the truck driver's hand as he counted out coins, his eyes carrying a lifetime of weariness. She noticed the quiet anxiety of the young girl on her first date, her hands clasped tightly under the table as if afraid love might slip away. And she understood the fleeting sadness in the forced smile of the elderly woman, ordering the cheapest soup, as if that meal was all she could allow herself to savor. That empathy was Nora's strength. It made customers love her, made them pause to offer a thank you, even if it came with just a few coins. But it was also a burden. Every glance she caught, every snippet of a story she heard, felt like a stone weighing on her heart, making her wonder if she had the strength to carry them all. The job at Rusty Spoon was a relentless battle. Each shift, Nora felt her vitality drain bit by bit, like coffee dripping from the old, clanking machine behind the counter. She darted between tables, wiping stubborn stains, refilling water glasses, and holding her smile though her heart was heavy. Some days, when the sunlight outside was radiant, she wondered if she'd ever break free from this cycle. But then the memory of her mother, a woman with a warm voice who'd whispered beside her bed that dignity is something no one can take away, rose up. Those words were the wind fanning Nora's inner flame, the reason she tied on her apron each morning, stepping into Rusty Spoon even when her legs begged to collapse. Today, the June sunlight lit up Woodward Avenue, but in Nora's heart, a storm was simmering. She stood behind the counter, her hand gripping the rag tightly, a sense of unease creeping in like the chill from the tile floor. The smell of burnt pancakes still lingered in the air, like a warning of a day that wouldn't be easy. Her heart beat fast for no clear reason, as if sensing that something was coming, a moment that would test the small flame she'd guarded for so long. The morning rush faded, leaving Rusty Spoon in a slow, familiar rhythm. Sunlight from June peeked through dusty windows, casting uneven patches of light on the stained tile floor. Old Joe, a retired factory worker with calloused hands, sat in his usual corner, sipping black coffee. His tired eyes scanned the local paper, searching for a glimmer of hope between the lines. Two teenagers in faded t-shirts giggled over a shared plate of pancakes, their last coins spent on this breakfast. Miss Clara, her silver hair neatly tied, lifted a chamomile teacup fragrant with honey, her lips spinning a long tale of bygone days. Nora Ellis moved among them, her steps light but deliberate, like a dance she'd memorized by heart. Her smile, honed over 6 years of waitressing, was a perfect mask hiding a weary heart. But her voice, gentle and sincere, was like a cracked open door, revealing the faint warmth still left within her. Nora wasn't just a waitress. She was the pulse of Rusty Spoon, the listener of unspoken stories, the bringer of comfort through steaming coffee cups. Yet every step, every nod, carried a weight. She thought of her father, Henry, with his wheezing breaths, and the stack of hospital bills in the drawer. She thought of her online courses, the late nights typing, dreaming of guiding lost kids someday. That dream, fragile as a wisp of smoke, was what kept her upright, even when she felt herself sinking into her own life. Near 11 a.m., the bell above the door jangled, a shrill, out-of-place sound, like a warning of disruption. Nora looked up, her hand pausing on the table she was wiping. The door swung open, and a man stepped in, tall, clad in a sharp navy suit, tailored to proclaim power. Vincent Hargrove. His salt and pepper hair was impeccably combed, his leather shoes gleamed under the lights, and a gold watch on his wrist sparkled like a declaration of wealth. He exuded a cold confidence, like a predator straying into a world not his own. His eyes swept over Rusty Spoon, slow, disdainful, yet curious, as if he'd wandered into a museum of the lowly. Nora's heart raced, though she didn't know why. Something about this man made the air in the diner heavy, as if he carried an invisible storm. Hargrove chose a corner table where the vinyl chair was torn, exposing a gash of foam, a spot Nora always tried to steer customers away from. She approached, menu in hand, its edges soft and stained with countless fingerprints. She smiled, but the smile was stiff, forced. Hargrove didn't look up. He waved a hand, a curt, commanding gesture, ordering black coffee and pancakes, not too burnt. His voice was low, sharp, slicing through the air, carrying the assurance of someone used to instant obedience. Nora felt a hot flush run down her spine, a familiar irritation but sharper than usual. She nodded, swallowing her annoyance, and turned toward the kitchen. "Another rich guy at table 5, she muttered, just loud enough for Sal to hear. Sal, the owner and cook, his apron grease-stained, grumbled beside the ancient, creaking stove. "Just smile and nod, Nora. Customers are always right, even when they're arrogant jerks," he said, shaking his head, his hands deftly flipping pancakes on the griddle. But his eyes were uneasy, as if sensing something amiss. Nora tightened her grip on the rag in her hand, a swell of unease rising. Hargrove wasn't just a customer. He was a challenge, a strong wind that could snuff out the small flame inside her, or set it ablaze. A steaming cup of black coffee and a plate of golden pancakes were set before Vincent Hargrove by Nora, gently, carefully, on a pristine white napkin. Sunlight from June glinted through Rusty Spoon's dusty windows, catching the gleam of his polished leather shoes, as if they belonged to another world, alien to the diner's cracked tile floor. Hargrove took a sip of coffee, his eyes fixed on a sleek iPad, fingers tapping the screen in a steady rhythm, like the pulse of a machine of power. For nearly an hour he didn't look up, didn't order more. Only cold, clipped whispers into his phone about corporate takeovers and controlling shares echoed in the rustic space of Rusty Spoon. He was the embodiment of boundless wealth, ruthless authority, an icy wall stark against the humble warmth of wobbly wooden tables and the soft laughter of regular patrons. Nora worked quietly, wiping tables, refilling water, but her eyes kept darting to Hargrove. Something about him, the way he sat, shoulders rigid, gaze never meeting anyone's, made her feel small, as if she were merely a shadow in his world. She thought of her father, Henry, with his wheezing breaths and the costly pill bottles crowding the cabinet. She thought of her dreams, the online courses in youth counseling, the late nights typing with fragile hope for a better future. Rusty Spoon was her lifeline, but each day it seemed to drain the last drops of vitality from her. Finally, Hargrove stood, his tall frame blocking the sunlight. He pulled a crisp $50 bill from a leather wallet, dropping it on the table, careless, as if the $8 meal wasn't worth his notice. But then, in that moment, he tore open a sugar packet, crumpled it in his hand, and with a casual flick of his wrist, tossed it to the floor. The tiny wrapper fell beside the table, a small white streak on the dirty tiles, like a sharp, stinging scar. The act, trivial yet dripping with arrogance, was a silent assertion. Someone, like Nora, would have to stoop to clean up his mess. Nora froze. Her heart pounded, threatening to burst from her chest. The air in Rusty Spoon grew heavy, thick. Old Joe, in his corner, stopped turning the pages of his paper, his aged eyes locked on the sugar packet. The two teenagers just laughing moments ago fell silent, their eyes wide, sensing the storm brewing. Sal, from behind the counter, shook his head, his gaze pleading, "Don't, Nora." But in her mind, another voice rang out, clear, resolute, her mother's, from childhood days. "Dignity has no price, Nora." Those words were a flame, flaring amidst the fear choking her. She needed this job. She needed the money for her father's medicine, for the apartment, for her dreams. Hargrove, in his costly suit and cold eyes, could likely buy this entire neighborhood without blinking. But the sugar packet on the floor wasn't just trash. It was contempt, a reminder that she, and those like her, were only fit to clean up after him. Nora felt a searing heat rise along her neck, blood rushing to her cheeks. She couldn't let it pass. Not today. She stepped forward, her eyes locked on Hargrove, who was halfway to the door. "Sir, you dropped something." Her voice rang out, clear, steady, stronger than even she expected. Hargrove paused, hand on the door, turning his head. His eyes, sharp as blades, swept over her, surprise laced with irritation. He glanced at the sugar packet, then back at Nora, his eyebrows arching as if she'd uttered something absurd. "Is that so?" His voice was cold, disdainful, like frost. Nora pointed, her hand steady despite the tremor spreading through her. "Yes, sir, your sugar packet, on the floor." The air in Rusty Spoon thickened as if holding its breath. Hargrove stared at her, his gaze piercing, analyzing, as if trying to see through her. Then, without a word, he pushed the door open and walked out, leaving a heavy silence and Nora's heart hammering in her chest. All right, my dear audience. Brace yourselves for a story that'll leave you speechless. Take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly vibe with what I'm bringing here, and drop a comment below to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always thrilling to see someone joining us from all corners of the globe. Silence enveloped Rusty Spoon, heavy, as if the air had been compressed before a storm. Nora stood rooted, her gaze fixed on the tiny sugar packet wrapper on the stained tile floor, beside the crisp $50 bill lying alone on the table. Her heart pounded, a chaotic rhythm of triumph and nausea. She had just challenged Vincent Hargrove, a man in an expensive suit with eyes like ice, a man who could snap his fingers and make this entire neighborhood vanish. But now, as the diner's door closed behind him, she felt as if she stood on a cliff's edge, unsure whether she'd claimed freedom or hurled herself into an abyss. Sal rushed forward, his face flushed, his grease-stained apron rising and falling with rapid breaths. "Nora, you've lost it!" His voice trembled, laced with anger and panic. "He could ruin us! One phone call, and Rusty Spoon's done!" Nora's stomach twisted. She knew Sal wasn't wrong. Hargrove wasn't an ordinary regular. He was a force, a man who could turn her small dreams, those online courses, the medicine for her father, into dust. But then old Joe, the retired factory worker with calloused hands, cleared his throat from the corner of the diner. "Kid, you did right." His voice was steady, like an anchor in a raging sea. "Bullies need to be called out, no matter how fancy their suits." His eyes, aged but fierce, met Nora's, offering a flicker of comfort. The two teenagers at the nearby table whispered, their eyes sparkling as if they'd witnessed a legendary moment. One of them discreetly raised a phone, snapping a photo of the tip jar on the counter, as if to preserve this story. Nora took a deep breath, trying to quell the tremor spreading through her. She slowly bent down, picking up the sugar packet wrapper, its fragile texture a reminder of the act just past. Small, yet momentous. The wrapper rested in her hand, light as a whisper, but it carried the weight of the dignity she'd fought to preserve. She walked to the counter, her fingers punching the cash register, the clack of keys like a heartbeat slowing. She took $8 from the $50 bill, the exact cost of Hargrove's meal, and slid the remaining $42 into the tip jar, her voice ringing out, soft but resolute. "For Rusty Spoon, for keeping it clean." The act was a silent declaration, not just to Hargrove, but to herself, that she wouldn't bow. Sal, though still anxious, looked at her with a flicker of respect, as if he'd glimpsed a new Nora, stronger than he'd ever known. The diner gradually returned to its rhythm, the clink of spoons on plates, Miss Clara's soft laughter, the crackling radio playing country tunes. But in Nora's heart, another storm was churning. Hargrove wasn't one to forget. She imagined him, right now, pulling his phone from his suit pocket, calling someone to complain about the insolent waitress. Or worse, he'd retaliate in ways only the powerful understood. A surprise health inspection, a canceled lease. She thought of her father, Henry, with his wheezing breaths and the costly medicines piling up. She thought of her dreams, the textbooks she read each night, the lines about helping lost kids. All of it could vanish, all because of a sugar packet wrapper. Her shift ended, and Nora stepped out of Rusty Spoon, Detroit's sunset painting the noisy streets in hues of red. The blare of car horns, the smell of exhaust, and the city's frenetic pulse surrounded her, but she felt lonelier than ever. Every passing car made her flinch, as if Hargrove were lurking somewhere, watching. In her mind, his cold eyes replayed, sharp as knives, with an imagined taunt. "You'll regret this." She clutched her worn canvas bag, the day's meager tips brushing against her hand, small, insignificant against the tempest in her heart. Pride, yes, she was proud for standing up. But fear, icy and jagged, gnawed at her. She'd challenged a giant, and now she didn't know the cost. Nora trudged into the fourth-floor apartment in Corktown, her legs heavy as lead after her shift at Rusty Spoon. The smell of toasted bread from the nearby bakery slipped through a broken window, mingling with the distant calls of street vendors echoing from the cracked pavement below. The small apartment, with its peeling walls and the rhythmic hiss of an oxygen tank, was her sanctuary, but also a reminder of the burdens she carried. Her father, Henry, sat in an old armchair, an worn book open on his lap, his clouded eyes sharp despite their haze. He sensed Nora's tension the moment she pushed the door open, her canvas bag sagging on her shoulder. She recounted the incident with Vincent Hargrove, the sugar packet wrapper, her challenge, his icy stare. Her voice trembled, not from regret but from the fear gnawing at her. Hargrove could retaliate. One phone call and she'd lose her job. One move, and Rusty Spoon, her and Sal's lifeline, could crumble. She thought of her father's medicines, the piling bills, her dream of counseling youth slipping further away. Henry took her hand, his gaunt fingers trembling but firm. "You did the right thing, Nora," he whispered, his voice frail but steady, like an anchor amidst the waves. "No matter the cost." His words, like warmth from a small flame, soothed her, but couldn't dispel the cold squeezing her heart. Night fell, and Nora prepared for bed, but her mind still reeled. She stood before the mirror, staring at her weary face, wondering if today's courage was a mistake. She thought of her mother, who taught her that dignity was something no one could take away. But could dignity pay the rent? Could it buy her father's medicine? She pulled the curtain, ready to shut out the heavy thoughts, when a glint of light from the street made her freeze. She parted the curtain, and her heart clenched. Below, a sleek black Bentley, long and gleaming like a mirror, was parked right in front of the building. Its distinctive winged emblem shimmered under the streetlight, like a predator in the run-down neighborhood. The engine hummed faintly, almost inaudible, but Nora felt it, a foreign presence, dominating the cracked street, as if it wasn't merely parked but prowling. This couldn't be a coincidence. Hargrove. His name sliced through her mind, sharp as his gaze today. She stepped back from the window, her breath catching, as if the air in the apartment had thickened. Her heart raced, each beat a warning. She glanced at her father, Henry, still in his armchair, his eyes worried but striving for calm. "Stay calm, kid," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Don't let them see you shake." But Nora couldn't stay calm. She felt like prey being hunted, and the Bentley below was a sign of a threat she couldn't fathom. Hargrove wasn't one to forget. She imagined him with his boundless power plotting retribution, a call to get Sal to fire her, a move to shut down Rusty Spoon, or something worse, known only to men like him. The Bentley's door opened, slowly, deliberately. A man stepped out. Not Hargrove, but someone younger, about 40, in a black suit that seemed to absorb the light, as if darkness had woven his attire. He held a slim briefcase, walking toward the building with terrifying precision, each step like the beat of a fateful drum. Nora stood frozen, her hand gripping the curtain's edge, her breathing ragged. She wanted to run, to lock the door, but her feet felt nailed to the floor. Henry looked at her, his gaze gentle yet resolute, as if willing her some strength. A knock sounded at the door, firm, cold, like a hammer striking her fate. Each rap was a reminder that her actions at Rusty Spoon had led her here, to this moment, where everything could change forever. Nora, her hands trembling, opened the door through a narrow gap, the brass chain holding it fast. The man introduced himself as Marcus Tate, assistant to Vincent Hargrove. He passed an envelope through the gap, thick, made of costly cream paper, urging Nora to review it immediately. He left, his footsteps silent as a specter's, leaving Nora with the weighty envelope heavy in her hands. In the small apartment, under Henry's anxious gaze, Nora tore open the envelope. Inside was a letter from Hargrove, printed on paper bearing the Hargrove Enterprises letterhead. He acknowledged his lack of finesse at Rusty Spoon, but swiftly moved to the crux, a job offer. Hargrove wanted Nora to direct the Community Revival Program for his charitable foundation, an initiative to support youth in struggling neighborhoods through education and counseling. The listed salary stunned Nora, 10 times her current income, along with benefits, housing, and a substantial project budget. The letter praised Nora's courage and integrity, claiming she possessed a rare tenacity that previous scholars lacked, but it also carried Hargrove's characteristic arrogance. This is not kindness, but an investment in potential. He demanded a response within 48 hours through Tate and pledged to compensate Rusty Spoon if Nora left. Nora sank into a chair, her mind reeling. This opportunity was everything she'd dreamed of, a job to transform kids' lives, to bring stability for her father. But working for Hargrove, the man who'd scorned her, would it mean trading the dignity she'd fought to preserve? The image of the sugar packet wrapper on the floor and Hargrove's cold stare mingled with visions of a brighter future. She looked out the window, the street now quiet. The decision in the next 48 hours would reshape her life. Could she trust Hargrove? Could she turn his power into a tool for good? Or was this merely a cunning trap? Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always exciting to see someone joining us from all corners of the globe. Drop a 1 in the comments if you love this story. so we can keep bringing you